Hi, everyone. My name is Wendy Shew. I am founder of a nonprofit organization called Building Education, and we serve to build safe schools and create ecosystems in ending global poverty in rural villages and the developing countries. And today I am going to be sharing a little bit about a chapter I wrote. It's called From Tragedy to Purpose and Making an Impact in the World for the book called Authenticity and Action. So today I will read an excerpt from my chapter. In addition to that, I'll share a little bit more about my background. So my story starts off sharing about how I lost my mother at a very young age of 8 years old and the three lessons that it taught me. And that's kind of the catalyst towards my nonprofit organization and the work that I do. So after I lost my mother, it actually gave me a bit of empowerment to understand and comprehend life and learn about what are the most important factors that should contribute to the value that we create in this world in the short time that we have on this planet. Hopefully, longer, at least 100 years is what we all like, isn't it? But that also led me to understanding the power and impact of education at a very young age, because ultimately what it did was it served as a mentor that I needed in this world without my mother. And so education became the discipline and structure that I needed to become a contributing member of society. It empowered me. I went through my own personal struggles in my adolescence without the right support at home in order to guide me into the right steps into life, as my father was a single working father raising three kids. And he was more focused on being able to provide for us. So now, with the mentorship of education, it empowered me and it allowed me to become a contributing member of society. During one of my darkest times, I decided to go back to school, study aviation, learn to fly single engine prop planes. And it made me really see that anybody with the power of education can make an impact in the world. And I truly believe that our purpose on this planet is to leave the world a better place than we found it. And so after I finished studying aviation and learning to fly, I went into the industry. I worked about 2 years as a jet engine specialist. And then upon taking a leadership course, I then learned that my true passion was actually making a difference. And so I wanted to explore that a little bit more. I made a trip to India, ended up volunteering at a girls' orphanage, fell in love with the work there, and decided to take a 1 year sabbatical from work to then travel across Asia, Europe, and Africa. And that sabbatical ended up being about 6 years all across Asia, Europe, and Africa. And so I taught in some of the most rural villages all over the world, from Thailand to India to Nepal, and then eventually made my way into Europe and taught in an island, two different islands in Spain, and started a nonprofit organization. So in 2015, there was an earthquake that hit Nepal and damaged 9,000 schools. And from there, I worked in earthquake disaster relief and then decided to start my own nonprofit organization and rebuild schools that were damaged by the earthquake or structures that were made of, they weren't disaster resistant buildings. So I decided to rebuild disaster resistant buildings and schools where kids can study in. And I am excited to be sharing about the chapter that I wrote for authenticity and action. So I'll start actually in the middle of the chapter and I'll start and talk about Nepal. So, as I researched further, I learned about the Sherpas, beautiful terrace mountains of the Himalayas. I saw that there were opportunities to teach young orphaned Tibetan monks. The idea of traveling to India to work at a girls' orphanage or teaching English to young Tibetan monks fascinated me. It was a world beyond what I knew. Life really was beyond the sky's limits. Although I could not decide which opportunity I wanted, I decided to go with my initial passion to volunteer at a girls' orphanage in India. I decided I would also fly to Nepal on my birthday just to visit the country. And that was what I did. Arriving in India at the airport was invigorating. There was so much happening in one place. Everything was unfamiliar, but I found it exotic. It was noisy with people chattering and cars honking nonstop. I waited for my assigned driver to collect me. I hopped into the car and we drove out of the city into a more rural area towards Faridabad, where the orphanage was located. Upon arriving at the girls' orphanage, I had no idea what to expect. There were a total of 12 girls there, and I arrived as they were cleaning the house. They were excited to see me, someone who was a foreigner and someone to talk to. I was assigned a bed to sleep in at the top of the house, along with another volunteer who was there. It was late at night already, and I sat on the bed with Anjali, the oldest girl in the house. I was feeling jet lagged and dizzy, unfamiliar with this feeling at first. And Anjali was going on and on excitedly, asking me questions about living in California, if I was married, and what I did for work. Her curiosity was insatiable. An hour went by, and I went to bed thinking how I loved the energy of India. There was something in the air. Whether it was excitement or busyness, I couldn't quite identify it, but it was definitely something I was grateful to experience. At 4 a.m., I woke up jet lag and could not go back to sleep. But India was awake already. At dawn, there were sounds of prayer from a nearby mosque. The day started with girls waking up at 5 a.m. to make breakfast. Every girl had a different responsibility for the week, which was written on the wall, and Usha ran her house strictly. The girls would either make breakfast, help the younger ones get up and brush their teeth, wash laundry, or work on homework. That first morning, I went to watch the girls make breakfast chapatis. They made the dough from scratch, then rolled them out into the most perfect circles before tossing them on the fire, allowing them to cook. They prepared enough for everyone in the house, including the 12 girls, Usha, and Usha's husband. It was quite a sight to see. The girls are far more disciplined than I imagined. I walked the girls to school just as the Indian sun was rising above the horizon. We held hands and walked in a double file line to get there, dropping each set of girls off at their different schools. Some of the girls went to primary school and the others to a secondary school. At this time of the day, the streets were filled with oxen pulling along the specialties of vegetables, milk, or other goods that were to be sold that day. There was no sidewalk, just the side of the road, and a hope that I wouldn't have my foot run over by a cart. We dropped off the girls at school and went home. I took my first shower in India. So that is where I will leave it off. And I am grateful to have anyone who has listened and watched this video to learn more about my chapter in authenticity and action. And thank you for taking an interest in my world, my life experience, and in this book filled with beautiful authors that have done incredible things in this world, making a difference and leaving a legacy behind. Thank you.